Open your fridge. There's a good chance you'll find milk from a cow, maybe goat cheese, maybe oat or almond milk sitting next to it. But here's a strange fact you've probably never thought about. Every single mammal on Earth produces milk. Lions produce milk. Wolves produce milk. Even the platypus, an egg-laying mammal, produces milk. And yet, in all of human history, we settled on drinking milk from a tiny handful of species, almost all of them docile, grass-eating herd animals. You've never had lion milk. You've never had snake milk, because it doesn't exist. And you've never questioned why. The answer isn't really about taste. It's about biology and a filtering process that happened thousands of years before anyone thought to ask the question. Start with the basics, because the setup is stranger than it looks. Milk is not a general animal trait. It's a defining feature of mammals specifically, evolved somewhere around 200 million years ago from modified sweat glands in early mammal ancestors. Reptiles don't produce it. Amphibians don't produce it. A crocodile guarding its nest and a frog laying eggs in a pond solve the same problem, feeding offspring, using an entirely different strategy. Pack the nutrition directly into the egg yolk, then let the young fend for themselves the moment they hatch. Milk exists because mammals took the opposite approach, keep the offspring close, and deliver nutrition continuously, in real time, adjusted for exactly what that baby needs at that exact stage. That's not a small distinction. It's an entirely different evolutionary bet, and only one branch of the animal kingdom took it. Even inside mammals, the trait gets weird. Monotremes, the platypus and the echidna, lay eggs like reptiles but still produce milk. They don't even have nipples. The milk seeps directly through patches of skin, and the babies essentially lap it off their mother's fur. It's proof that milk is such a deeply locked-in mammalian feature that it survived even in a lineage that kept the reptile habit of laying eggs. So if milk production is universal across mammals, why aren't we drinking wolf milk or bear milk? This is where domestication comes in. And it turns out dairy animals had to pass a brutal filter. Most species simply fail. Researchers studying the history of animal domestication, including work popularized by geneticist and author Jared Diamond, point to a consistent set of requirements. The animal has to grow fast, breed easily in captivity, tolerate close confinement without panicking, live comfortably in a hierarchy a human can sit at the top of, and, critically, eat something cheap and abundant. Cows, goats, sheep, and water buffalo pass almost every one of these tests at once. They're grazers, converting grass, something humans can't digest, into calories humans can. They live in herds with existing social hierarchies that transfer easily onto a human handler. They're calm enough to be milked twice a day without a fight. Predators fail this filter almost immediately, and not for one reason, but for several stacked on top of each other. First, diet. A lion needs meat, and meat is expensive, land-intensive, and directly competes with human food supply. You cannot pasture a predator on grass. Second, temperament. Docile enough to walk up to twice a day and physically milk is not a trait evolution-optimized carnivores for. Third, and maybe most overlooked, yield and risk simply don't balance. A dairy cow has been selectively bred over thousands of years to produce vastly more milk than her calf actually needs. The same override the biology trick used on egg-laying chickens. No one ever ran that multi-thousand-year breeding experiment on lions, because no one could safely keep enough lions in one place long enough to try. And even if you somehow solved the safety problem, the milk itself likely wouldn't be what you're picturing. Milk composition isn't one universal recipe. It's precisely tuned to what the specific offspring needs to survive. Seal milk can be almost 50% fat because a seal pup has to build a thick layer of blubber within days, out in open freezing water, with no time to spare. Rabbit milk is famously concentrated because rabbit mothers only nurse once or twice a day and need to deliver a huge amount of nutrition fast. Bear cubs, born in the depth of winter inside a den, drink milk so fat-rich it resembles something closer to cream than what you'd pour on cereal. If predator milk followed anything close to that same pattern, tuned for a fast-growing carnivore infant instead of a slow-growing human one, it would likely be too rich, too fatty, and biologically mismatched for a human gut built around an entirely different growth curve. This is also why the animals that did get domesticated for milk vary more than people assume, but only within a narrow lane. Mongolian herders milk horses and ferment it into a mildly alcoholic drink called arog. Desert cultures milk camels, animals that tolerate heat, scarce water, and difficult terrain better than cattle ever could. Some regions milk yaks at high altitude, where cows can't survive the thin air. In every single case, the animal is still a docile, herd-living, plant-eating grazer. The species changes. The formula doesn't. So the next time you pour milk into your coffee, understand what you're actually looking at. It isn't the obvious default liquid among thousands of possible animal milks. It's the narrow output of a two-part filter. First, an evolutionary rule that restricts milk production to mammals in the first place, cutting out every reptile and amphibian on the planet before the conversation even starts. Second, a brutal domestication filter that only a handful of calm, grass-eating, herd-forming mammals ever passed. While every predator, no matter how nutritious its milk might genuinely be for its own young, was disqualified by diet, temperament, and risk long before anyone could even attempt the multi-thousand-year selective breeding it would take to make that milk practical. You didn't choose cow's milk over lion's milk. Biology and 10,000 years of quiet trial and error chose it for you.